वादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखम करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे Shri Guru Deenatarini. Hare Krishna. So today we'll see the next verse, 14.11. So Krishna is explaining, after explaining the overall characteristics of the modes and explaining about Jiva coming in contact with the modes, Krishna also explained that sometimes any one mode dominates the other two modes. So when one mode dominates the other two modes and that becomes the prominent mode, then how it impacts or how it reflects in the um, behavior of a jiva or a living being, what is seen in that particular mode, that is explained in the next three verses for each guna. So first Krishna explains about the goodness. Okay, so let us see. Sarva dvareshu dehe smin.
Sarva dvareshu dehe asmin
Prakasha upajayate.
prakasha upajayate.
Jnanam yada tatha vidyad.
Jnanam yada tada vidyad.
Vivruddham sattvam iti uta.
Vibridham sattvam iti uta.
Okay, please chant.
Sarvadvareshu dehe asmin prakasha upajayate. Jnanam yada tada vidyad. Vivridham sattvam iti uta.
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वम् इत्युक्ता.
So translation and purport. The manifestation of mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Purport. There are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by the symptom of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one sees the things in right position. One can hear things in right position, and one can taste things in right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of symptom of happiness. And that's the position of goodness. So, a person in goodness, how he behaves, that is explained. So, of course, we can see any person and understand in which mode he is operating. But here Krishna is explaining a person in mode of goodness, how he will react, how he will interact. Right? So the modes of nature are subtle, right? Subtle things. Those are not gross things. We cannot see mode of goodness as a personality or by our eyes. So it's a subtle force of gunas that is acting. So the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance is a subtle force. So I think day before yesterday we were discussing, like, if you go into a beautiful scenic spot, the energy is good, the vibration is good. If you go to a very crowded railway station or a crowded mall where there is lot of happenings, it's a passion. And if you go to some uh, place where the liquor is served and people are drinking and smoking, that is ignorance. So what exactly happens when we are in these places, different places? So if there is a particular type of vibration in that place, and that acts as a force. So if you go into a very crowded station, say like Shibuya, or any station where there are so many people coming and going, announcements going on, trains are going, uh, so much shopping is going on, people talking on phone, so much movement is there. So that place is in passion. So if you go to that place and you try to be in goodness by just not doing anything, just peacefully sitting there in that place somewhere and smiling or reading uh, a book, for example, it's very difficult to concentrate there. So what happens actually? What happens is there is a force of this movement that is going on around us that will uh, that will uh, also force us to move instead of sitting and reading some book or doing some meditation. That force will not allow us to be in mode of goodness. So that's the place where passion is very uh, prominent. So there is a force, invisible force, that subtle force that acts on us. That is the mode. And how it acts? It acts on the subtle element. So the force acts on the mind and intelligence. And then it mind and intelligence, if it were acts on mind, then the mind will use the senses in a particular way. That's how it becomes visible. So when the mode of goodness is there, then the mind uh, operates or works under intelligence. So intelligence will guide the mind, what is good, what is bad, what is not to be done, uh, what is as per dharma, what is not as per dharma. So then mind will use all the senses in a proper way. So that's what we say. It is illuminated by knowledge. Uh, so, for example, eyes. So eyes should be used for seeing, reading a book, uh, or seeing a very beautiful waterfall. Uh, So if you see these things which are in mode of goodness, then the eyes are illumined by knowledge. But when the same eyes are used to see something which is in passion or ignorance, then the knowledge is not used. Hmm. So similarly, when we eat, what is to be eaten, what we should eat, what we should not eat. With that knowledge, when action is done, that is called goodness. Hmm. So similarly for our other the senses, how they are used, based on that, the more we can understand what this person is in which mode. So mind directs. So what here it is mentioned is all the senses are working in proper direction. So Srila Prabhupada says right position. So they are working as they are supposed to work in the mode of goodness. Hmm. So that is the sign of a person in goodness. So uh, very sometimes we see the people are fighting. Say 2 3 people are fighting, and that's when the fighting is there. It's a very heavy mode of passion. But sometimes we see a particular person in that situation. He just takes a pause. He stops fighting and he just leans back and controls himself. So that is actually action in knowledge. He understands that he's angry, he should not act now. Mm. So he will not speak anything. So that's an act of mode of goodness. But when we react, it's mode of passion and ignorance. We don't think, we react. So our actions by the senses are done in the knowledge. So that is what Krishna is saying, illuminated by knowledge. So the actions by the senses are not done in ignorance or in passion. It's controlled way. So this is the sign of person in goodness. So we can understand our mode by our actions, by our reactions, basically, and by our interest, what we want to do. And we can easily judge that I'm not using my sense in a proper way that it is supposed to be used. So forget goodness. I am not in goodness. I am in passion and ignorance. And by observing this, we understand that most of the times we are in passion and ignorance. And that's the struggling point. So we should try to come to mode of goodness. So with the help of knowledge, Krishna tells that knowledge can burn all the ignorance. So we have to apply that knowledge to all the senses. And then we can come in mode of goodness. Of course, bhakti is beyond the modes. So if you are stuck up in passion or ignorance, you just do bhakti activities. That's always better. But if we cannot do that, at least we try to be in mode of goodness. So Brahmins are supposed to be in mode of goodness because they study Vedas. They try to understand Shastra. They try to understand Dharma. So that is mode of goodness. So Brahmins are supposed to be in mode of goodness. So we should try to be in mode of goodness so that we also get self-control on our senses. This is the symptom of mode of goodness. So please try to judge how we are using our senses, and we can easily understand which mode is prominent. So Krishna will tell about the other modes in the next 2 verses, so we'll see that tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any comments? Okay, thank you very much. So let us see mode of passion tomorrow.
Thank you so
Okay,
much, Hare Krishna.
thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.